introduce y'all, for those of you who have not met Sarah Koffler, who has a Sweet Max with her right now, and Kathy Pomer, who is joining us on the phone because she is in Maryland and is without power and because of a snowstorm. So she is on by phone, but both Sarah and Kathy come to us from JCC Association. Kathy is the director of the amazing Sheva Center, and both Kathy and Sarah have been so supportive and helpful to us as we've navigated the transitions in the Early Learning Center, and I just can't say enough wonderful things about the support and guidance that they provided us. So I'd like to just have the group here briefly introduce themselves to Kathy and Sarah, just so they have a little bit of context of who makes up our search committee. And then they're going to share a little bit about trends in the country and what we're experiencing and how we're not alone. So Bobi, I know that you know Kathy, but if you don't mind just introducing yourself real quick.
Bobi Steingart. I taught at the JCC preschool for over 20 years. I was the assistant director and curriculum development for about 5 years. I've been retired for over 8 years, and I'm on the board of directors at this time.
Thank you, Bobi. Lori?
My name is Lori Asulin, and I am a teacher in the preschool currently. I've been there 28 years, and I'm excited about the process of looking for a new director.
Thank you, Lori. Ted?
Hi, I'm Ted Rosenholm, and I'm a parent. I have 3 children at the ELC. I have 11-month-old twin boys, and I have a 2.5-year-old in Zahov.
You hear her, I think.
Yeah, she's right here.
Hey, Madeline. And Lindsay.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Tansky. I'm a parent at the ELC. I have a 3-year-old in Lori's class. We recently relocated back here from New York City, but I grew up in Longmeadow and grew up at the JCC. Glad to be on the committee.
Thank you. And Amy, if you'll just briefly introduce yourself to Sarah and Kathy, that would be wonderful.
Sure. I'm Amy Anderlonis. My son went through the JCC preschool and he's now in 2nd grade. And then I have a daughter who is in Segal, so she's in the oldest classroom. So this is her last year in the preschool. But I've been a parent with the ELC for the past 8 years.
Thank you. And Sarah and Kathy know our staff well. So since we have a limited time today, I am going to go ahead and turn it over to Sarah and Kathy just to give us some big pictures. And if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. And Kathy and Sarah, I know, will be very happy to answer any questions. Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much, Sam, for having us today. And hello to all of you. It's a pleasure to meet and see all of you. I know some familiar faces and really thrilled to be here. It has been such a joy and an honor to be working with Sam and with this whole JCC team for quite some time now. And happy to spend a little bit of time talking about what we know, what we see, what we hear happening out in the early childhood space in terms of hiring, in terms of searches. And in fact, I'd love to start by just sharing that at JCC Association, this is something we've been talking about and thinking about for a very long time now. We just completed our 2nd cohort for emerging learners and leaders in the field, directors who are thinking about moving into this world, educators who are thinking about leadership, because it's been for so long now that there has been a true shortage and crisis almost for early childhood leadership in the field. So this has been something that's been top of mind for us for a very long time, as so many of our directors and leaders are retiring, and there's not an influx of people who are in this work, who are looking to be in leadership roles. So please know that this is something nationwide, field-wide, continent-wide, that has been on the forefront of our mind for many, many years now, as we work to build a trajectory, build a path for educators to move into leadership roles in lots of different ways. And in the past few years, as we've seen schools start to go through searches, JCCs start to go through searches, we are critically aware that there are not a lot of people who are going into this work and going into this world right now. And so what a joy it has been to see that you've had some really strong candidates who are looking for this work and who are very qualified for this role. We had a chance to peek through and learn more about each of these candidates from Sam, and I'm thinking about Kate, I believe it is in particular, who seems so very qualified, certainly for this work, for this role, who knows this community, who knows early childhood clearly inside and out, who shares philosophical, pedagogical beliefs with the school, with the JCC, with the Early Learning Center. Oh my gosh, what a dream that is when we see so many schools around us, around the country, around North America, who have been unable to find a candidate who is even somewhat qualified or able to move into a role like that. So we know this has been a struggle and something, as I said, that field-wide we have been working on for many, many years right now. And we were so pleased to see that there were some high quality candidates, and one in particular rising to the top, who might be a really great option for this JCC. Kathy, please.
Yeah, I can jump right in there. Sure.
Please,
And hello, I so apologize to you all. I moved south from New England because I was certain we would not have snowstorms anymore. Kind of forgot that the world was upside down, but we've got quite a bit here, and I thank you all for your patience and my what I'm sure is a beautiful phone emoji that looks a lot like me. Thank you, Sarah, for that information. We talk about this pretty much every single minute of our lives, and it's hard for me to remember that folks out in the world that don't eat, drink, and sleep early childhood in the professional side of things don't realize what a crisis is on our hands. You all, of course, are there with your beautiful children and your beautiful traditional JCC that's been there serving the community for so long that it does feel like this is a place where the real world is coming through, and we're letting you know pretty clearly that it's rough out there. And what I feel is so exciting about what's happening in Springfield right now is that you all are developing a community that is really thinking hard about who you are and what you want and who you want to be. And with Sam at the helm doing that, it just feels that in so many different ways, we might have been, always feeling like we were doing things that way, but now it's time to really get real and say, let's see what kind of leaders we could bring on into the team to help us really make it a team that understands that we want to align with our values. So in looking for that kind of strong director, I think that there's not much more to add than what Sarah said, except that we've pretty much taken this and made it less of a profession that people are wanting to be in. Most JCCs and most early childhood centers have not been paying very well to the early childhood folks. Professional development has been a very difficult thing to come by. And at the same time, there's sort of this old antiquated model that as long as you've got profit coming in from early childhood, then a JCC can run, or the agency that's affiliated with the JCC can do well. And for years and years and years, we've been trying to let people know that has been happening, but at the expense of quality teachers who are paid well, who have a profession to move forward in, and who are interested in being involved in the long haul retention-wise. And now, because of COVID adding on to all of our worries, there just is no recruitment possible. That whole recruitment plus retention equals enrollment has now been stifled at both of its entry points. So imagine our thrill at seeing this resume of Kate's, thinking that this is somebody who is really excited about trying to create a community that understands children as capable and competent, and a community as capable of pulling together those Jewish values that we all hold tight to, and having that work in a world such as the one we live in right now. So I think our most exciting part of the week is going to have a chance to meet with that one candidate later in this week. And we wanted to welcome the opportunity to talk to all of you, certainly wishing and hoping that when you put out a call to come and help us build what we want to build, many, many people answer. At the same time, I am just thrilled and really delighted that you found someone that I think is actually sounding like she's surpassing what I know is out there in the world. I think that's probably the big thing you wanted to hear from us, and I think you probably have a million questions now to follow up. I want to make use of this time and hear from you all.
Thank you, Kathy and Sarah. I'll open the floor up to any questions that y'all may have, even if it doesn't necessarily have to deal with the search process, but just what Sarah and Kathy may be seeing in other JCC early childhood centers. Any question that you may have. This is our chance to pick their brains. Bobby?
So I do want to pick your brains as to, besides just the director, I mean, it's like we are really hurting to try to find staff. And that's been going on ever since I've been there, and that's quite a while ago. You know, our staff used to be, I joke about this, it used to be the parents, you guys, basically. We were the staff, Lori and myself and all of the others that retired over the years. We were parents in the community, and it was a part-time job, and it was something we did because we all had like BAs and masters, but we had young children, and we wanted to do something that was really exciting and fun in our community. But now I know we're paying well, but still you don't have a giant resource of where to find these teachers. And how can we approach this issue? I mean, without really good teachers, we can help train. I think that's part of our new approach will have to be to find educators that are also willing to continue to be trained. And where can we actually go and find some of these educators at this time? There is definitely a shortage.
So I'll jump in with the first answer because, boy, are you singing our song. We are more than aware, and everything that we were just saying about directors goes 100% for every educator that would choose to go into this field. I remember those days too when it was exciting to be a part of trying to round out an early childhood center. But I really do believe that this problem is much bigger than any one of our schools individually. We live in a country that has not necessarily been moving forward in valuing teachers. In many of our universities are actually backing down and having smaller departments. I know my beloved Tufts University went into the for-profit childcare world and dropped the department, didn't drop Elliott Pearson, but dropped the department school. Lab school because they just couldn't find people to work and staff it. It's everywhere. There are no teachers, there are no directors. We've taken this road as long as we can without help from the outside. So 2 initiatives that I can tell you, and then again, I'm going to not sound like such a buzzkill because Sarah is going to help us think a little bit more about that training and retention of the good folks that we have, and maybe the helping some other folks come toward us when we say what we mean about being the kind of place that an early childhood professional would like to be treated as a professional and become a professional. But two initiatives that we are working on at JCC Association. One is in partnership with URJ and Federation and a lot of other folks out there in the world, with the help of an awful lot of funders who are making themselves known now. We are moving into a recruitment opportunity called Project 412 to try and build communities around the continent that are going to be backed by universities, backed by big business, backed by parent groups, backed by community groups, backed by local funders, all thinking about how to actually build this field from the ground up. All those supports that were there before are not there, and we are playing a major role in making this happen going forward. And the other place that we are spending a huge amount of our time is with advocacy, both on state levels and in the federal levels, trying to get, if not in the form of Build Back Better itself, but some part of this early childhood bill passed, so that places where parents can choose to send their children, even JCCs and faith-based places, are going to be supported by the government in a way where we can have quality childcare, value-based, even if not religion-based, and supported so that parents are not paying the most of it and teachers are not being asked to take the least of it. Those are the big ideas of what we're trying to do in a huge way, because I hate to answer your question this way, but there are no places where those teachers are right now. And we need to just do the best with supporting those teachers that are good, that happen to be in the field, and see how we can boost it up. So Sarah, anything you want to add as far as retention goes?
Absolutely. Thank you. And yes, retention is on the flip side of excuse me, that coin from recruitment that go hand in hand. And we want to make sure that we are providing the right supports and the right structures and systems to be retaining the high quality educators that we do have. What are the trainings that we need to be offering? What are the supports that are in place to further someone's professional development and enhance their career growth? What are the more tangible ways that we can make sure that someone is feeling sustained and secure in their role? So those are pieces that we're all thinking about, that we've been able to talk to Sam and Stacy and Deb and Stacy about as we think about Springfield, certainly, but things that we're thinking about field wide. From the Sheva Center right now, we're actually in the process of starting to put together a series for classroom educators, knowing that for so long, those supports have not been in place for educators to feel supported individually and collectively, to know that there are so many early childhood educators thinking about the same kinds of things and going through the same kinds of struggles and looking for the same types of opportunities. So thinking about ways to retain our educators is very much top of mind for us, and conversations that we are having with this JCC in particular. How can we be providing supports? How can we put into place certain professional developments, enhance the skills, enhance the experiences, enhance the trajectories of the educators who we do have, because we know at a time like this where recruitment is such a challenge nationwide, as Kathy just said, that makes the retention piece that much more significant and that much more important for us.
Any other questions for Ted? Did you have a question?
I did actually. I was wondering, going back to the director search specifically, do you have a ranking of attributes that you look for? Are you looking for somebody really ideally more has management experience, in this issue? We just talked about staffing, dealing with people, retaining staff, or are you looking at somebody who has more of a curriculum educational background and is lacking? Because I think when you're looking at these two candidates, one has a lot more experience managing a facility, whereas the other one has experience in educating. And just wondering, you seem to really like Kate as a candidate, and I'm just curious, in this environment, do you feel that the management piece is more important, or are they primarily equal? What do you think?
Sarah, you want to jump in first and I'll back you up?
Sure, happy to. That is such a good question, Ted. Thanks for posing that. I think that all of the attributes are so important in so many ways, right? And there are certain skills that someone can be taught and can learn along the way. And there are certain attributes that are a part of who someone is. And when I think about managing people, when I think about relationships and providing those supports, that's sort of a mix of both, right? So much of it is who someone is at their core and the way that they interact with others, which for an early childhood director, that is a huge part of the role. For myself, when I was in an early childhood director role, which I was for several years, relationships was the number one thing I focused on. That being said, I still had to have the other skills to make sure that the school was running, to make sure that the budget was balanced, to make sure all of these other criterias and aspects are managed and are part of the day-to-day work. But how is that person forming relationships, and how is that person connecting with parents, with educators, with children first and foremost. That's why educators are doing this work, right, to support the children. So using Kate's resume as an example and her experiences, I loved seeing that she has been in a role like this for quite an extended period of time. I think when we're looking for someone to really be building up this school community in Springfield as we are right now, knowing that someone has been in a role like this for a period of time, that to me is something that feels important. Reading through the experiences that she's had, it's some of the similar things that we're talking about for here, wanting to rebuild, wanting to be supporting the staff, wanting to make sure families are feeling communicated with and connected in lots of ways. For me, I would say someone who is aligned philosophically with an early childhood center, and knowing that for all of you in Springfield, who you are, what you value, what's at the core of who you are is so important. Having someone that's aligned with that speaks to the relationship piece in so many ways too, right? That allows us to connect when we have shared values and shared vision for the ways that we're moving forward. So I don't want to say that the skills of being a director, of being able to manage are not important, but knowing who someone is, knowing what they value, knowing how they view children, how do they view families, how do they communicate, how do they move through this world and through their work, that to me is at the core of what is most important in thinking about who would be the right fit for a role like this.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And the things that I've been looking at that speak to me about this, at this point, you got to know that we're building a profession from the ground up. This has to be a place where people are being seen, being valued, feeling included. With a background, when someone says that they've got this Reggio-inspired piece, I want you to not misunderstand that I think that because of the Reggio piece or that's a curriculum piece. In my mind, it's a philosophical piece, as Sarah's been saying, building a community that understands the image of the child as competent and capable, and the image of the learner as competent and capable, which I believe means these teachers who have been working so hard, been sticking it out in this field, and are excited and interested about taking it to the next level. This sounds like a person who, in my mind, understands that we're learning about collaboration, we're learning about being creative together, asking good questions, and not just having all of the knowledge, which we know all of the knowledge in the world has not helped us a lot in the last 2 years. We need to be having people that are interested in leaning into each other and building a community that sees each other well as thought partners to decide what should go forward. And that's what I see there. I love the idea of family engagement being so huge on that resume. I think the future of all of us in building these communities has got to be that we don't just have the families and parents as the users, the end users, which has actually sadly been the case for many places where you just pick up at the end of the day or drop off in the beginning of the day, but where the voices are all mingling together to decide what kind of a space we want to be. I love that there was an idea toward diversity, because in my mind that means this is a person that understands including all voices. All voices in my experience has meant that there have been lots of managers in the world who are great at managing, but don't hear the voices or build up and raise up the voices of the people that are around them necessarily. And somebody who has an eye toward inclusion and diversity in anything DEI feels to me that they're thinking about all the voices being represented. It is about relationships. It's always about relationships. And I do feel that things can be managed without building a community, but it's time for this school to really be thinking about the kind of community it wants to be.
Thank you, Kathy and Sarah. I just want to jump in, and then I know Amy had a question. Can you give us some examples of both believing that children are competent and capable and educators are competent and capable? Because I feel like it's a big idea, and we've certainly been thinking about it on our end, and how to show staff what that means in action. And I think it would be helpful for the group to know what that looks like.
Yeah, Sarah, you jump in first again, because I want you all to hear this as somebody that's been in the director's seat a lot more recently than I have, and I feel that you really have some great examples here that we've talked about. Jump in there.
Thank you. This is something that is top of mind so often, and it's something that can look different in different spaces, because each person is an individual, each child is an individual, each teacher. But in terms of characteristics that I would think about, as someone who views children as capable and competent, if I was sitting in that teacher seat and thinking about the children in my classroom, that would mean that the space that I'm sitting in is the children's just as much as it's mine as the teacher. That would mean when I'm holding a morning meeting or a gathering of the group, it's not my information that I'm bringing to just disseminate into their heads. I'm hearing from them. We're creating a community in which we're all learners and which we're all part of the conversation. That would mean that I'm not just dictating, here's the materials that we're taking out for the day and nothing else can be a part of it. That would mean the children are part of the process with me and thinking about the experiences that we want to craft and form together. Of course, as an educator, as the adult in the room, I'm still in charge about thinking of who are these children developmentally? Where are we seeking to go? What skills are we thinking about to be appropriate for this age range of the children who are in the class? But how are those children coming along on that journey with me? There's a great quote out there, and thinking about the type of teacher you are, and I won't get it exactly correctly, but for so long there was this thought about banker teachers, a teacher who's just depositing knowledge into the heads of children versus a midwife teacher who is giving birth to the experience that a child is having and being in this world and growing through this world and moving through this world. And a teacher who views children as competent and capable is helping the children to birth their own experiences and be part of the journey with them. Likewise, if I'm thinking about a teacher who is capable and competent, I'm having trust in that teacher and what they're doing in their classroom. I'm not needing to second guess or micromanage or listen into every minute of every day to make sure that things are going the way that I, as a director, might envision them going. I am entrusting that teacher to move forward their classroom in ways that are right for the children who are part of their practice. I'm trusting that the experiences that unfold are meaningful, are appropriate, are relatable to the children who are part of the classroom. And I'm connecting with that teacher as the director in a meaningful relationship, in a way that feels valued, in a way that we are trusting and caring about one another and supporting one another. Truly viewing someone as capable and competent is viewing them as a human being and giving the same respect that you might give to your mother, to your spouse, to your child, to every person in your midst, and elevating that person, whether it be a child or an educator, in those ways.
That's so beautiful.
Level of love.
That's so beautiful.
Thank you.
I love that. I want to only add one thing, which is that in order to do this kind of thing, Sam, and what a great question, it takes practice. It has to become a practice. It has to be part of the structure of the school. So what we're looking for is a leader like you have been, Sam, but also as a director of the school, who doesn't shy away from pulling groups of people together to keep practicing this type of community building. So teachers will meet regularly. So that teachers and parents will meet regularly and not just at teacher conference time, so that people within the JCC all meet regularly to make sure that we're all having an aligned idea of how we interact with other people, how we not only have programs and ideas for going forward, but how we are responsive to listening to the actual people that are in our midst. The schools right now that are thriving, I have to say, are schools that are still making time, or I guess I want to say thriving as far as teachers not leaving in a mass exodus as part of the Great Resignation. They're ones that are staying open for a certain number of hours a day, where certainly some of that is being counted as the ratio so children can be in the classroom, but not losing an eye toward the amount of time that teachers need to meet with each other. Teachers need to reflect on their own. Teachers need to be thought of as professionals and not just, get here 5 minutes ahead to turn the lights on so that you can be a person with a pulse when the children come in. We all bring our best selves when we're treated and seen as professionals and as competent and in divine image. And that's one of the best ways that we can build a community going forward, with everybody understanding that, especially while there's time of scarcity, it might mean that we're not open as long in the day as we were able to before, or that we are maybe running, things a little bit leaner with with the actual teaching time, because there's time for teachers to really be thought of as professionals as well during that day. You're hearing people say that, you know, we're giving extra time out, we're giving comp time, we're doing things to help appreciate people that are stepping up when they're stepping up, but we're not using people up in every possible way as if we don't understand that this is a profession and not just someone to show up for. I don't know if that makes sense, but the idea that any of these candidates might be thinking about growing this practice would be of extreme importance.
Thank you, Kathy, and thank you, Sarah. Amy, did you have a question?
Yes. So before we started the search committee, there was talk about growing the ELC and making it even bigger. There's such a demand here for more childcare. Is that something we should still be thinking about, or because of, you know, the shortage in finding strong candidates that that we should basically just be focused on someone who's capable of stabilizing ELC and managing the staff and creating these relationships versus thinking about growing the ELC?
I think, and if it's okay with you, Sarah and Kathy, just to address that quickly, I think you're spot on. I think the type of candidate that we're looking for right now is to help us stabilize, is to help form those relationships and rebuild. You know, we've had a lot of transition over the past year, but from the CEO role, the director role, and that's in addition to all the challenges that COVID has brought. There's so much rebuilding that is certainly not unique to us, but is very important for us to do. So I think you're spot on. That needs to be our focus.
And I would only add, I completely agree. We've got to shore up and make sure everything is really feeling solid and stable right now. And in the future, I really think we can all be so much more creative about how we expand. It used to just be, let's just get more numbers in those classrooms, or let's build another classroom. I'm really loving the idea that some of this time of hardship has allowed us to look outside our walls and think about what kind of communities overall we want to be, what other schools that we might want to partner with, how we could be a larger coalition for children and families and teachers, and not just ourselves own the whole group. In that way, I feel we grow a stronger J, a real community builder, and not necessarily just being limited by the walls and the numbers that we have. But without a doubt, we've got to stabilize first, and that is true for Springfield, but it is also true for this field on the whole.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I would just add to what Kathy said, that it also mirrors and aligns with what we're doing as we have other department director openings here at the J. As we continue to recruit and hire for new positions, we're trying to take a very similar kind of approach, which is make sure that the department is stable, resume operations to the level of quality that we want, that aligns with our values, and then think about program expansion from there. So I'm thinking specifically about our Kahila or special needs department right at the moment. And that's a similar path that we're taking right now. And it seems to be, the right path.
Thank you, Deb. That's an important point. Any other questions? Ted, I saw you reach for the screen, but I don't know if that means you have a question. No? Okay. Anything else? Thank you guys so much. And Sarah and Kathy, thank you for giving us this perspective and also being so inspiring and supportive through this search. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sam, for the opportunity to be here today, to be with all of you. It was really a pleasure for us to join you. And please, if there's other follow-up questions that come to mind or things that you're thinking about, please don't hesitate. That's what we're here for.
Thank you.
Absolutely, 100%. And thank you for knowing that this invitation is going forward. Anything you need. Please don't hesitate to reach out. I love hearing kids around. I think that's just the most important thing to remind us about why we are all here. And thank you, Sam, and all of you there for helping Springfield really lead the way through these rough waters of trying to decide what's most important and how we are going to emerge so far ahead of where we came into this pandemic on the other side.